title of this mini podcast is Catching Yourself. Years ago, I got an interesting message from the Grasshopper. Criminals don't get caught because they're stupid. They get caught because they're patterned. It got me to wondering about what patterns we're caught up in that lock us up every time. You can go a lifetime without becoming aware of an arresting pattern. Patterns are pieces of purposeful behavior we learn without knowing really how we learn them. They often hang around long after the purpose of their formation has come and gone. We become like an unfragged hard drive in an old computer with little pieces of behavior strewn about here and there, slowing us down and compromising our performance. Pattern behavior is wonderful when it continues to serve a purpose that's serving us. It becomes problematic when it handcuffs our abilities. I was reminded of the tragic side of patterning while listening to a song by my favorite female vocalist, Karen Carpenter. This young woman had a beautiful voice, but learned a pattern that she didn't have a beautiful body. As the story goes, early in her career, she and her brother Richard were performing at a small venue and were well received. The local newspaper ran a glowing review of their performance the next day. The reviewer, as an aside, referred to Karen as chubby. She ignored the rave review and got caught up in the personal characterization. She began a life of dangerous dieting and purging and died from heart failure at age 32, attributed to anorexia nervosa. The purpose of the original pattern was to get her not to be chubby. The pattern lived on well past the time any healthy weight had been achieved. What pattern do you own that's confining you? It's a question worth asking because your exploration of an answer can serve as your get-out-of-jail-free card. Step 1 is catching yourself running a limiting pattern. Step 2 is using a strategy to outgrow it. In order to catch yourself, you first have to know that you're running a pattern. Sometimes it's quite evident what pattern you're running, and sometimes it isn't. If you're really in the dark about what offending pattern you're running, ask someone close to you. They always know. But knowing isn't enough to get paroled from this pattern. You have to catch yourself committing the crime. That means to catch yourself in the act. All new learning begins when we become aware of a pattern while it's happening. The key to escape is to interrupt that pattern while you're in the middle of it. Beating yourself up a half hour later won't do the trick. Interrupting the pattern while it's happening takes you to the prison gate. Continued recognition and interruption opens the door to freedom. It's not only against the law for a high-wire act to work without a net, it's extremely dangerous. If you're caught up in a risky pattern, take a tip from the pros. Work with the net of recognition and interruption. You'll catch yourself every time. All the best, John.